I became really a lot more appreciative of the opportunities that I've had in life. The more I reflected, the people I've met, stuff that's been shoved in front of me, that you got to create your opportunities and you got to walk through the doors when people open them for you. And once you do that, it's amazing.
Yeah, and I wanted to get the jump on the book by getting you on the podcast, and I love your energy and your zest for life. Ever since we've been friends, I've just you know always loved catching up for a coffee or breakfast or lunch or whatever it is. We
And a
don't do it
hug.
enough, and a hug, a PB hug, of
Love our
course.
hugs.
Of course. It's interesting though, and this is what this podcast is about. It's about showing behind the scenes a little bit. And we were talking a little bit before I hit record around from a real estate perspective. So many people know PB. He's digital, he's focused on housing and supporting the industry to continue to grow their agents, their businesses, to stay profitable, to help their clients, to help, the property industry, not just in Queensland, but around
Thank you.
Australia.
I love it.
And, but some people wouldn't know the PB behind the scenes, people don't know PB behind the flamboyant suits and the bright shoes and the bright shirts.
Yeah. Well, thank you, buddy. And we've all got a story, we've all got, we don't know what's really going on in people's world, what challenge they have. But I know that everyone's got some challenges somewhere. If it's not today, it will have just happened, or it won't be too far away. That's just it. But that's the beauty of having connections and having a network or having a tribe of people that are there to support you on your shitty days, or your shitty your things in life. I'm blessed that I've got, some mates. One that he's been I'll say he's been the best mate since grade 2 in school, and we cannot see each other for a number of years, and then walk back in and the conversation starts straight off again. We're back doing a lot of camping together and spending time together. We take the piss out of each other like you wouldn't believe, and he's my go-to person. And it's not that he's not a lovey-dovey kind of guy. He's a I don't know what the year was, but let's say it was in the early 90s. We did a big trip around the world, and there's all these photos on the London Eye and the Champs-Élysées and Mount Fuji and Times Square and all these photos, all these great places. We went on this tour. Business had been really good, and we shouted ourselves this tour. And, we came back and had the slide note or the photo note. I'm sharing all these photos with he and a couple of other blokes. And he looked at the photos and he said, "Hey, dickhead," because that's how mates address each other. "Hey, dickhead, nice photos, pretty places you went to. How come you're not smiling in any of them?" And I went, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You're not frigging smiling. All those places that people give their left nut to see, and you're standing there with your frown upside down." I'm going, And so I grabbed them and I went, "Holy shit, here I am in all these amazing places around the world, and I'm not smiling." And people, as he said, would give you their left nut, well, he's onto something. He is absolutely onto something. It made me take stock of myself, and I went off and saw my GP and said, "Obviously something's going on." And he said, "Yeah, buddy, you need to slow the F down. You're forgetting to enjoy the journey. Your body's in these places, but your brain's still back running your real estate business. And so next time you better make sure that your brain goes with you and your smile goes with you, because, buddy, physically you're there, but, it was a really, really good lesson, to start putting, changing my priorities and not letting, the stresses and strains of running a business, just tie me back to Australia and make sure that I lived in the moment and enjoyed where I was, and it's a big lesson for all of us. Certainly was a lesson for me. So he's the guy that gives me that honest kind of feedback. "Hey, dickhead, how come you're not smiling in all these photos?" Well,
Well, and that's something from a real estate industry perspective. You work hard, you go from achievement to level, you bank some money, you then go on holidays, and before you finish that holiday, you're thinking, where are we going next? And it's all about this achievement. Where can we take our kids? What can we do? What are the things that we can tick off, right? And it's not But I think there'd be a lot of people in life, not just in real estate, but in all organizations and living life today, that don't actually stop and smell the roses. They're already thinking about the next bunch of flowers that they're gonna get, and they haven't even smelt the ones they've got.
Oh, buddy, and so, and I think it's really worthwhile checking back in on yourself and asking the question, why am I doing that? Am I doing that because I'm that driven? Am I doing it through expectation of other people? I talked about expectation with the knee operations, that the expectation was that I'd be out of hospital in 4 days. The expectation, that everyone had placed on me. And so I hadn't really worked out my own expectations because they've been pushed down my throat. And I think it probably happens very much in the real estate business, or in the other business. We've got peer pressure from other people saying, if you're not at the gym at 4 a.m., if you're not writing 100 deals, if you're not writing $2 million worth of commission, are you in real estate anyway? If you don't have a new Porsche, if you don't have the latest Brett leg, are you even serious? And we're going, oh, shit, I do. Oh, I'm a failure if I don't do this stuff. Where I think it's really worthwhile spending some time to say, what am I doing this for? Am I doing this because I want to make a buck? I want to have a good life. I remember a guy that worked for me a lot of years ago. His name was Patrick Robin Kelly. Nicest guy you could ever meet. Just a lovely human being, Patrick. I sent Patrick off to do an auction course. And he went along and we just thought it'd be good for Patrick to learn a bit about auctions. He'd been a really good real estate agent for a couple of years. His customers loved him. I sent him along just to increase his knowledge. And he came back the next day, the next morning, arrived at the office, and there's Patrick at the door with this white envelope. Okay. And he said, can I see you for a minute, Pete? And I went, yeah. Now, anyone in business, in leadership knows when someone's standing with you with a white envelope, it's generally I'm finishing up. It's the resignation. I'm thinking, oh, shit, it's happened, Don't need to lose Patrick. He's a nice guy. And I said, come on, Patrick, sit down. Let's have a chat. And I said, what's going on? He said, look, I went to that training course yesterday and the trainer said, I'm going back a lot of years. He said, if you're at $110,000 a year, you're not serious. And he said to Patrick, I wouldn't get out of bed for less than $110,000 a year. Let's say we might be talking 1985 or so.
Big money, 110 back then.
Yeah, exactly. It was good money. And Patrick was earning maybe 65 or 70 or something or other. And Patrick said, oh, geez, I'm not writing that kind of money. Oh, obviously a failure. And so he came back and he resigned. And I said, Patrick, can I just tell you, number one, I was actually running that I was chairing that particular organisation at the time, and that trainer, we were paying him $55,000 a year. And that idiot was telling people, if you're not earning that, I wouldn't get out of bed for less than $110,000 a year. Needless to say, that trainer didn't last beyond that afternoon. We kept Patrick. I sat down, I said to Patrick, do you love what you do? He said, oh, Peter, I love working here. I just really, really love it. And I said, do you think your customers love what you do? He said, I think so. I always get good feedback and reviews and stuff. And I said, do you think the management here, do you think we appreciate it? He said, well, you seem to. And I said, Patrick, that's all that matters. Don't worry about some flashy bloody bullshit auctioneer trainer who's put all this expectation in your throat. Buddy, there's your desk. Give me a hug. You're on board. Whether you earn 65 or 110, it doesn't matter to me. I want you as the kind of person that sets the values inside this business, because that's worth more than anything. I'd much rather have a Patrick than a 9,000-pound gorilla bouncing around the place, and upsetting the apple cart. So don't know how I got to that, but it's that expectation driven by the expectations of others. So I think it's really important for us to check back in and say, why am I doing this? And if I'm doing it, if I'm doing all these extra things and creating all this stress and forgetting to take our brain with us on our trips, are we doing it at the risk of losing our family or our friendships or our health? And if we are, then we probably need to take a hard look at ourselves and go, would I be happy with half, of what I'm doing? And if I could actually then remember my kids' names and, anyway, that's, I'll get a bit philosophical, but I just think it's a really, really important thing, but that only comes with time.
Yeah. Now that year that was your, what did you put it as the Queen said?
Annus horribilis. Bad, yes. Horrible year. Yeah.
You're a fan of The Crown, aren't you?
Well, Mum, it's funny. Mum was awarded a Silver Jubilee medal by Queen Elizabeth for her services to the community. And in fact, here it is. Here it is. It exists. It lives. That was presented to Mum by Queen Elizabeth, by Her Majesty the Queen, from Buckingham Palace in, I don't know, lots of summers ago. And so, I don't mind a bit of, whilst I'm a bit of a nonconformist, don't mind a bit of, bit of the old royalty and the, bit of discipline doesn't hurt us all.
Yeah. So that year, obviously a good thing that's coming out of that is that you've got a book launching, and was that the inspiration that year? Was it just you reflecting?
Probably, Steve. I sat down. I thought, how do I get some of this stuff out of my system? There's probably a couple of things that inspired the book. I enjoy writing. I've never been, I was chastised at school because, in fact, I caught up with my former English school teacher recently, and I said I've read this book, and he said, "Brewer, you never knew the difference between an adjective, a noun, a pronoun, a verb, an adverb, and none of that stuff." And I said, "Yep, 65 years later or 60 years later, I still don't know what it is, but I've managed to write 110,000 words of a book," and which he's reviewed and liked. And so, I was inspired to say, what could I need to push myself. I wanted to get some shit out of my system and vent some stuff. And I wanted to leave a legacy of sorts for my family. It's not that it's the best book that anyone's ever written, but, I can tell you lots about my parents. I can tell you a little bit about my grandparents, and I know nothing about my great-grandparents, who I'm sure were wonderful human beings and gave and did wonderful things. But when they passed, that was it. That all
Mhm.
the information, all the wisdom, all the stories is just consigned to 6 foot under, or it's buried or burnt, and that's it. And I think we've all got stuff to share. And, I love my grandkids, and I want them to know a little bit, and my kids, and I want them to know a little about what drove their crazy dad or grandfather or great grandfather. And so I just started to compile these stories, and I thought, oh, well, maybe it'll just be a handful of stories. And we're all, I absolutely believe this. The more you sit down and write stuff, the more stuff comes. And more
Yep.
stuff comes. The next thing you're 110,000 words, and you go, holy shit, oh dear, where'd all that come from? And, there's stuff, I think I've edited back to about 85,000 words because there's stuff there that should never, ever see the light of day, from a legal perspective and all kinds of perspectives. But shit, it was good to write it, Steve. It was
Yep.
amazing. It was
Yep.
such a good, the word cathartic gets used a lot. It gets, but it was so cathartic just to get some of this stuff out of a system. I used a bit of license in some stuff because, good storytellers do that. But it's a pretty good read, and its title is called Running Out of Saturdays. And that is, and I'm not a biblical man, I think you know that. But the Bible, which I'm told is another good book available in good bookstores as well. The Bible apparently has something that talks about 70 and 10, but we as human beings have 70 years, 70 years. I'm 65. And so based on that, what have we got? Theoretically, by the Bible, I've got 5 years left at 52 years here. So I've got 270 Saturdays left. And so we're all running out of Saturdays. And so, what are we doing to make sure we've had fun, and what are we doing to make sure that we can continue to get the most we can out of this wonderful thing called life?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the running out of Saturdays. I know some people talk about how many Christmases have you got left, or, all those kind of things. And I've been in some sessions where they take you through some of these things and you go, wow,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. That gives me a little bit of a different perspective.
Totally, the word Saturday comes from Saturn. Saturn, there's a ring around it. It's and it's funny because the more I thought about it, we do so often you look at someone's calendar and they put a ring around a Saturday because that's the day that we celebrate and do stuff and go to the pub or go watch cricket or spend time with family or do whatever. Unless you're in real estate, I had 30 years of not knowing what a Saturday is, and that's why Saturdays are so important to me now.
Mhm.
I've never heard anyone, whinge about having Saturdayitis. Mondays, yeah, but no one ever complains about, well, I've got Saturdayitis, but we get Mondayitis. So Saturday's such an important day, and it's got more importance to me as time goes by. So that's what inspired the book, and I think all of us have got um, stories in us that should be told, and each one of them, there's something, there's a lesson in everyone. I think I've got The book has got maybe 65 short stories in it, but each one of them comes with a lesson. Um, you know, um, yeah, and I'm happy to share, happy to share some of those with you, if and when time permits. I'm really happy to talk about some of those, the funnier, the more light side ones.
Yeah. Talk to me when you were doing those, writing through those, and really it's journaling, right? And I love journaling, right? You're journaling your thoughts, you're reflecting, you're getting it out on paper, you're getting it out of this big thing, right? Onto paper. Talk to me about some of the things you learned about yourself going through it, things that you may not have known.
Oh, I learned that I was a shit typist because here I am on this computer, you know, two-figure tapping away. That's why it hurts so much editing from 110,000 words back to 85, because I'm going, oh, how many mornings did it take me to type some of this stuff? And now I'm just going backspace over it. I think I just learned there is, look, there's all kinds of things. I learned, wow, I became really a lot more appreciative of the opportunities that I've had in life. The more I reflected, the people I've met, stuff that's been shoved in front of me. There's one chapter, it's called, my sliding doors moment or something or other. And it was, you know, um, creating opportunities. And it was 2009. And you and I have been to conferences in the States. And I went to the NAR conference in San Diego. And I particularly went along to see a guy called Jeff Turner speak. And I'd only ever followed Jeff in social channels. I'd heard he was a bit of a rock star in the digital media space, particularly in real estate. And it cost a fortune to go, but I flew to San Diego and I wanted to see this session called Agent 2.0. And I sat there at the back of the room. There's about 2,000 people in the room. There's 24,000 people at the conference, but 2,000 people in this room. I'm sitting up the back. I've got my notebook. They're just getting ready to go on stage. And I thought, you've come all this way to see this bloke speak. It's about 30 steps from the back of the room to the front of the room. You've come all this way, mate. Why don't you just take the 30 steps up the front and go and put your hand out and say good day, or are you just going to sit there and take notes, record the session, go back to the airport and fly home? And I went, but it's that thing, oh, I'm meeting your heroes. Will he let me down? Will he say, piss off, Aussie? Who the hell are you? What do you want? I didn't, Anyway, I just thought, oh, you'd come all this way. So I walked to the front of the room before they started the session. He was there on stage and I put my hand out and I said, g'day, Jeff, Peter Brewer from Australia, Brisbane, Australia. Just want to let you know I'm really looking forward to this session. I've come a long way. You've got a stellar group of people. I can't wait to hear what you guys got to share. You could feel the warmth in his extended handshake to me. He said, well, I really, really appreciate that, Peter. I haven't got time to talk now, but I'd love to continue the conversation. Mate, get a comfy seat. Why don't you sit in the front here with my partner and other people? Move from the back of the room. And please come and see me immediately after the session. And let's have a chat, which is exactly what happened. At the end of the session, I thought, oh, he's just talking bullshit. He won't want to spend any time with me. I've got the photo, we took a photo afterwards. We've become the best of mates. And I was, I had, he's living in Buenos Aires for the next month. And I was on a Zoom with him here yesterday talking about life. And, what's key about that is, I call it a sliding doors moment because I could have sat at the back of the room and done nothing, or I could have created the opportunity. And I created the opportunity. And I thanked him, many times I thanked him. And he said, Peter, I did nothing. All I've done, because what he did was open doors for me in America to get a profile over there, to meet some great people, to speak there, to become an ambassador for the Inman Organization for 10 years. And I kept saying, thank you. And he said, mate, I just opened the doors for you. You had to walk through them. It was totally up to you to walk through. And I think there's a really good message in there. A long way to get to that point, but I think there's a really good message in there that you got to create your opportunities and you got to walk through the doors when people open them for you. And once you do that, it's amazing what's out there. Or you could sit at the back of the room, take the notes, go back to the airport, jump on the plane and go home and say, that was nice. Well, I chose to be above average. I chose to go the extra 10% just to do that little bit more. Does that make sense even?